So why are we streaming again? Like, that's a question. Like, or basically, I want to build apps again. I was not having fun doing the thing I've been doing for a while, which is doing retail sales, and sort of like building brands out in that space. And this seems like a lot more fun to me. So I'm going to kind of put a little clap mark there and say, let's talk about what we're going to build. We're going to be standing up a platform as a service, which is one of the most ambitious things you can do. So what is that in a nutshell? A platform and a service makes interfacing with the infrastructure stuff a lot easier. So if AWS or DigitalOcean is scary to you, we are going to make it unscary. We are going to create a application which covers a local development environment. So you can spin up PHP or Rails or Node or any one of these services inside its own little container where you can do all the work that you need to do. You can turn on databases, you can turn on configuration stuff, you can turn on whatever you need to turn on. That little contained environment, you develop on it, you can then send that to AWS. And once it's there, we're gonna make it so you can scale it. So one button clicks to create component scaling. So you can scale, databases, you can scale your CPU workers, you can scale your just standard, like your load balancer stack. All that will be set up automatically, part of the project. We're just going to make it like the easy mode of web development. And the reason I'm doing this is kind of interesting. There was a project that did this. There was an actual startup that did this called Nanobox. Nanobox did this service through a command line. And like, we built a lot of stuff on Nanobox. On this stream, we built a ton of stuff. So if I pop a command line and even just ask it, like, what do I have for Nanobox projects is on here? It's going to have a list of like, look at all this stuff on here. Like, these are all projects. Some of these are projects with System 32. That's interesting. Some of these are projects that were scaled into very, very complicated situations. This one right here, this was like a 10 instance server. It was the basic requirements for something that you think may have to scale. And this was all being managed. Nanobox did it. Like, it was a fairly cheap service to use. Nanobox is gone. I can still get in. I can still get into my back end. But Nanobox was acquired by DigitalOcean. I have absolutely no idea what DigitalOcean's plans for Nanobox are, but I guarantee the plans do not include sticking this stuff on AWS. Why would DigitalOcean have a tool they could deploy to their competitor? They wouldn't. I know some information about what happened here. Essentially, the Nanobox team moved over to DigitalOcean in an acquisition hire. So this artifact of what this does, you see all this stuff? Like, this is what it's going to do. This is what we're going to do. Here's the silver lining on this whole story, because there's thousands of users right now who do not have access to this. Okay, there's people that are freaking out because they have, kind of like I have, a very complicated hosting scenario that they don't want to manage. I mean, and they now are going to lose the ability to manage it. So what we have as a scenario to cover this is like one of the best things ever. We have Microbox. Microbox is a open source, MIT licensed, which says you can use it for free.
It's free real estate.
You're allowed to sell it. You're allowed to do whatever you want with it, as long as you maintain on this particular repository the open source license. You have to say it's still free. You have to say it's still open. We have to keep it in a public place. So Microbox is maintained by a former Nanobox engineer who didn't go to DigitalOcean, named Dan. And Dan, we've had a conversation with him, is really excited about the opportunity to get this going again. So what he's going to do is Dan is going to continue to stand up this thing. He's going to slowly migrate it away from Nanobox as a code base and into Microbox, which will just be a open source version of Nanobox. So Tyler, who's the founder of Nanobox, got the AOK from DigitalOcean to open source an entire code base, an entire commercial code base, and abandoned. And so we're looking for help with this. Like, Dan is going to head up the open source components, and we're going to head up the rest of it. So it's going to be like the interface between the user and the software itself. So Nanobox runs on a command line. We're not cool with that. We're going to replace the command line with a GUI. So we're going to create a nice, beautiful desktop GUI that'll do all the things that the command line can do, that can report on the things that the command line are doing, and make it so it's like a one button thing. So we're going to make this really polished. We're going to turn it into a product, and we're going to sell it. So that's our goal. Now, if you want to say like, well, couldn't we just make our own Nanobox and not have to deal with Dan? Dan's a lovely person, but like, couldn't we do that? Yeah, we could. And it was actually something that like we considered going into this, to just say, well, how much stuff is this doing? How, it's a repo that we got for free though, with 1,700 commits on it, 155 repositories worth of code. This is millions of dollars of code. No joke. It's a kind of wonderful scenario. We get to take a product which was doing well as a commercial product that for whatever reason said, take all our code and we're going to take it. We're going to use it. So we're going to go through these phases with it here, but really this is like the nuts and bolts of it. We're going to do everything on Electron and Vue on the desktop. So we're going to create this desktop GUI, which again interfaces with the command line. So we're going to use Electron as I don't know what the hell it's called. I guess the Electron is the framework. I don't know. That's going to pipe in and be managed by Vue. Now, there's a reason I'm doing Vue, mostly because I think this is actually quite a simple app. I also don't know Vue. so we're going to figure this out as we go. I don't think it'll be that hard. So we've got to talk about this. The web services platform is sort of interesting. I have no idea what it needs yet. I have none. We need a way to interface with the adapters. So you can see at the bottom of my screen here, there's all these adapters that we're gonna have. So we're gonna create them, right? So we've got for the big ones are definitely AWS. DigitalOcean, we'll see. It'll be interesting, right? And I'm very curious to know how they react to that. I'm very curious, because they'll just be seeing them come from IP addresses. Maybe they may see them. We may have these on a web service that'll resolve back, right, and kind of give away what we're doing. like it's very possible. I don't know. But these adapters, we're going to have to figure out how exactly they need to be situated, because my goal is to do everything on the client. No external services, no authentication, like no need for you to log in, basically. No third party watching over what you're doing. The web services may just consist of these adapters, but we want to work on the desktop. We don't want it to be like you log in to scale up your services. So for the rest of it, the engines and the hooks, these are just languages that we're going to support for local deployment or whatever. These are essentially little things that spin up the VMs, and then we have configuration that we can attach to that. So just from my perspective, if I go to deploy a website without something like Nanobox or Maga, now it's Maga, if I do that, how much time am I adding like down the road? Because a service like this, we can manage a lot of things. We can manage like SSL provisioning. We can manage Cloudflare. We can make sure just that the boxes are load balanced. We can create alerts to notify people when stuff goes down. It's not terribly hard. So if we can just privatize the GUI, that's it. We're just going to privatize that end of it. The GUI account setup, like payment stuff, that'll all be in private repos. You guys will see it on stream. It'll never see the light of day. Everything else, let's keep it open source. Let's add to Dan's monster project, because there's pieces that are missing. There's something called a server agent, which Nanobox is going to let us use their server agent for a little while. But the server agent, we don't know what it looks like. We only know what the API looks like. So if we make it, why don't we share it with Dan so he can use it too, and other people can maintain it, right? Let's talk about the Electron Vue component really quick. What's nice about Electron is that it's super supported and it's super easy to use. What's bad about Electron, let's talk about what's bad about Electron real quick. Here's Discord. Okay, we're gonna just do a dive into Discord, because this is a billion+ plus dollar company. Let's look inside Discord. Oh, there it is. Now we're in it. We are looking at the local application state right here. Just right there. It's for you. Do you want it? There it is. Okay. Like here's all the Discord code. Now, if you go to the console, you can mess around here. Oh, hold on a second. Don't do it. Right. Please, like, and so they're aware. They're aware you can dive in. And this is kind of a scary thing with the Electron apps. So we'll talk through the project really quick. So tonight's stream, I'm not doing any work. I'm really not doing any work. We're just going to talk through it and kind of create this artifact of the project. So one day I can look back on it and say, we had the best intentions and this was the original scope, and then that all changed. So if we let's go through kind of what our scope's going to look like, and what all is going to be in the V1 here. We're just doing a thing. Like we're making this, we're making this desktop GUI like so, where we're going to have the servers, all loaded up here. Our projects. Oh, I'm like a 2-year-old. There we go. And doop. Okay. So we're gonna have projects kind of loaded into this sidebar thing here. We'll probably have like a little like button to create new projects, obviously. And then, over here will just be sort of like your individual project stats, whatever those might look like. That's a pie chart. That's what they look like. And maybe, some statistics running here, some graphity graphs, and like something like that. You're probably also going to have another type of thing where you can configure stuff. You have this laundry list of languages though that we're going to support, which I don't think it's as hard as it looks. So if you look at this, so we have all these languages. These languages will move into a local server on your desktop. So here's your crappy crappy laptop. It'll go local. We're going to have a way to configure that through our app. So you're going to launch and configure like right from this interface. I'm sorry, I draw like a 2-year-old. So if we have these languages need to have obviously hook support. These are more like your components on your box, right? So you have all these languages that can all use any combination of these things that go to local, and you spin that up and you dev there, right? So some of the things that we'll be covering, it's like, it's going to need to be an interface. Here's the bread and butter. This can then go through this to what does the World Wide Web look like? How about we just make a cloud? So cloud providers kind of looks like a little turd. And the support that we have out of the box for cloud support, it's DigitalOcean, AWS, Linode, all these guys. So not only do we move it over to the cloud, we're also going to be able to scale it. And all this stuff is happening right through the interface. So the scale is going to, again, take place here. Hopefully we don't need to build a interface like around here that sits on a web server to do this. The idea is going to be, this all kind of comes back right here. So, I mean, we're even going to be building this like popped on top of the Nanobox CLI. So we're literally going to be running the Nanobox CLI like through this. Some of the first stuff that we're going to be taking care of is like automatically updating an app. So like we might be paying for that guy, but it's going to be this thing just like Discord where it says like, hey, an app update is available, and it'll go and grab the update and inject it back in, and we don't have to continually throw out the exe files. I will try not to put a Bitcoin miner in there. No guarantees though, guys. Let's just talk about the logo for like 1 second. That's sexy, man. That's a good looking logo. I don't know what we're going to call it. Like MAGA box, MAGA pass. That could work. MAGA works. I don't know. Or just MAGA. I think just MAGA sounds cool, but it's not, it's not the best thing. The first phase that we're going to start like Domani tomorrow is going to be the desktop design. So we're going to start going through those pieces where we can actually like start to see what the components look like. So once we get the design done, hopefully on Monday, we'll actually start doing framework setup, and we're going to build in that auto update feature and then do another thing to scan for dependencies, which I don't know, there might be like an easy or hard way to do that. But what we want to do is make sure that this command or a nanobox command comes back and says, yep, nanobox is installed. Because like, let's say if we were trying to write, like look for microbox, we want to read this and say, nope, that dependency is not installed. Here's a way to install it. When we're done with MAGA, guys, my plan is to do apps for the rest of my life. That's the plan. So back to this. The local deployments, I think what we're going to do towards at the end of a local deployment cycle, where we'll say that the 2 or 3 weeks have happened, is going to be when we can launch a box and we can control the box. So all this is just sort of a fancy way to say launch the box, control the box. What's going to be hard about it is configuring those components. So we have to consume a YAML file. We'll be able to take the YAML, break it into a JavaScript object, and then do with it as you do with JavaScript objects, and then say back to YAML, and it just like bleh. So you kind of understand local deployments. They're going to be a little bit of a bear. The custom form builder to me is the biggest bear of it all. The rest of the stuff's easy peasy. Once we get that all working, then we're going to send that stuff off. So we are going to have to move that local box over the tubes and into AWS. That's a bear. So we are going to need to store AWS keys and stuff like that. And we're going to have to figure out how to store those things on the local file system so they're not easy to snag. So there's other pieces here, but you know, like we're definitely going to make it so you can add an SSL. We may or may not go deeper with the SSLs at this point. I think we just leave it with Let's Encrypt. So the remote deployments, I would call that check once we have the ability to kind of like stick one of these boxes on any of the adapters and turn it on, turn it off, and that's it. And then we move into the 5th phase of development, which is the remote scaling. So the remote scaling is going to be two big pieces. The first one that we're going to hit is the ability to take that single instance, so that's like a single EC2 box, and move it right onto other EC2 instance types. This is your standard, like, you know, A1 mediums, large, extra large, 2x large, 4x large.
The metal.
And what I'd love to do is like make sure that we can display all this information and the costs. So anyways, we are going to stick instance pricing inside the remote scaling thing. And the instance pricing will help somebody see how much it's going to cost and like basically create the scaling situation before it occurs so they get an idea. Well, we're going to complicate that even more with multi-instance hosting. And multi-instance hosting is like, you're going to have instead of having everything under one box, you're going to have like an EC2 for the web, an EC2 for the database, and then maybe a S3 for data, right? Like this is a multi-component setup or a multi-instance setup. And this is the stuff of nightmares for anybody who's ever done it. This is, I think, why MAGA is going to be such a valuable app. This is where I see it being valuable. So once we're done with that stuff, we'll be figuring out if we need web services. I don't know if we will. And then to capstone the project, we'll design a simple marketing site, and then we're going to launch this sucker. So that's pretty much like the project. I don't know if anybody had anything around it. We could talk about money a little bit, like monetization of the platform. Here's my thought. What do we think people will pay for this? Like $80? And I think that it's free. I think it's free to use. And maybe at some point, somewhere between here and here, you say you pay the money. Like this is when you pay the money. Because like, I don't know. Maybe it's just like you let them deploy. I don't know. I think we got to figure it out, but this will, I think, just like a one-time thing. There's another idea we had. If we wanted to keep it free, we could run ads on it. Okay, so if we say $80 or something gets you no ads, yeah, I think that could work. And the other thing we thought about for pricing was sell domains, because I think that would be very easy to turn on. It would just be like, now we sell domains. Like, you could just buy your domain right there. The other thing that I thought could be really like an easy thing would be to like sell hosting, meaning be a reseller for AWS. So you go to turn the app on, and you're eventually going to have to add your hosting providers. You know, at some point you're going to have to say like, okay, yeah, I've got AWS, or maybe you don't have any. If you don't have any, then we could just, I would be very transparent about this and just be like, if you click this link, we'll make like $5, so please click this link. And it'll just be that referral link to, you know, get an affiliate sale through one of these guys. So I mean, like the Chief, like you can go back and watch the rest of the stream from today. But that's the gist of it. Like, we're taking this super cool tool that let you create these local development environments inside of containers, which I'm granted a lot of things do, and then move them onto your hosting provider of choice. And we're building that. Anyways, guys, it's fun to be back. We'll be working on this for the next 3 months. I hope this is like a good way to get started. Just watch the stream if you want to catch up. See you later. See you tomorrow.